Hello, I'm the Archangel Daniel. In this video we're going to talk about Satan's influence on humankind, part 1. Now Satan managed to possess a pope, a Roman Catholic pope, hundreds of years ago, and that person implemented celibacy for the church. Satan is against people enjoying themselves. He's very, very bitter. And so he denies priests and nuns and monks the pleasure of human contact and sexual satisfaction. So he implemented celibacy. And the other thing about Satan to remember is that Satan and all his followers are eunuchs. The vows of silence that monks adopt is also Satan's idea. So it's one way for him to shut Christians up. He implements these sort of rules and laws on people, even within his own organization. It's a method of control. So vows of silence are Satan's idea. Third thing we're going to talk about is fasting. Now, Jesus was never in the desert for 40 days being tempted by Satan. That never, ever, ever happened. And Satan's in fact afraid of Jesus. So this fasting that was mentioned by Jesus in the Bible did take place. So Jesus did mention to some people in a talk about fasting. Fasting accomplishes nothing, and it is not our way in heaven for people to fast. It is not our way in heaven for people to go hungry. Jesus wound up in purgatory over that incident, because fasting is not what people do in heaven. It is not God's way nor God's will for humankind not to eat and enjoy their food. In fact, from heaven's perspective, it is the opposite. We want people to enjoy their food and not to go hungry. The other thing that got Jesus in purgatory was divorce. So Jesus mentioned something about divorce and was against it, but Jesus himself was had been divorced in heaven, and this came up in the control room, and then Jesus wound up in purgatory over it. So and the thing about fasting in heaven, in the first history, we all ate the same food. And this went on for 450 billion years for everyone in heaven. And then after humankind had been wiped out, discoveries were made on Earth, on planet 1, which resulted in everyone in heaven discovering cooked meat and cooked food, and later cooked hot drinks like tea and coffee, and everyone enjoyed those foods and drinks. So in the first history, it was not in any way, shape or form our way for people to go hungry. On the contrary, we always did our best so that everyone was provided good food. Later, when there was robots and automated fast food delivery, people never ever went hungry at all. It was a good time for everyone, and it continues that way in heavens on this day. So, things to remember: celibacy was Satan's idea. The other thing that needs to be addressed is nuns you're not going to marry Jesus when you get to heaven. I realised it was being mentioned by someone who thought they knew everything. That is not the case. So how things work regarding people who are single, for example, if Jesus is single, which he is, then for a person to meet him, they would have to meet Jesus somewhere and get to know him and go dating. You don't automatically assume that when you get to heaven, you're going to marry Jesus. So for nuns on earth, I suggest that you all know this so that you know the truth about what happens in heaven. And that just because you're a nun does not mean that you would ever marry Jesus. The opposite would in fact happen. So that's something for people to know and understand. There's a lot of myths out there. For the Roman Catholic Church, another thing that is Satan's influence is the kissing of statues. So that goes against one of the 10 Commandments, adultery, right? So we don't worship statues and bits of wood, and people shouldn't be kissing crucifixes or things like that, right? In heaven, when people want to request something, they don't actually pray for it. They actually talk directly to God, and that's done either through face-to-face or through a video connection through angel vision. There's a third method through wormhole telepathy and happy time, which is a different interface but works pretty much the same as angel vision. So they talk face to face directly to God, Jesus and God, Mary, Jesus and the Holy Spirit, and that when they want to request something. So it's different in heaven. On earth, when we do prayers, it opens a channel, as I mentioned, in order for God, Mary, Jesus and the Holy Spirit to hear our prayers. So when people do a prayer, it's to request something, or need help with something. That's what it's all about. So as long as people remember that Satan's influence on the church and on humankind are things like celibacy for priests and nuns and monks, vows of silence and fasting. I'm the Archangel Daniel, and I'm from heaven.